Harrington co-legal chambers stood tall and proud in the heart of Ikoyi, Lagos. Inside the marble-floored corridors and glass offices, talk buzzed like bees. Everyone was waiting for the mysterious heir, Daniel Harrington, to officially take over the firm. Whispers danced between cubicles. "I heard he's Harvard-trained," one intern whispered. "And ridiculously rich," another added, eyes wide. "They say no woman has ever been able to pin him down." What they didn't know was that Daniel was already among them, not as the heir, but as a lowly intern. Wearing plain clothes and sporting a modest backpack, Daniel had slipped in quietly, observing. His goal wasn't paperwork, it was people. He wanted to know how they treated the unseen, the ignored, the ordinary. Unbeknownst to them all, another observer had entered. Grace Harrington, Daniel's grandmother and the true iron pillar of the Harrington name. Known by most as Miss Grace, the cleaner who wiped tables and emptied bins, she was a woman on a mission. Find someone worthy of her grandson's heart. One morning, as Grace bent over to mop a corner near the elevators, a group of sharply dressed women strutted past. "Ugh, what's that smell? Who let this woman into a law firm with that ancient wristwatch? She wants to pretend she belongs here." Their laughter was sharp and heartless. Grace, ever calm, straightened slowly. "It's just a watch," she said, her voice steady. "Why does it bother you so much?" One of them scoffed and shoved her shoulder lightly. Grace staggered back. "Enough." A firm voice cut through. Isabelle Grey, one of the firm's junior lawyers, stepped forward, tall, graceful, and clearly fed up. "She's just doing her job. And frankly, if you have this much time to insult cleaners, maybe you're not doing yours." The mockers rolled their eyes. Look who's talking. Queen of the dumped. Isabelle's face tightened, but she didn't flinch. "I left him. I have self-respect. Try it sometime." One by one, the others melted away. Grace turned to her, a quiet smile warming her face. "Thank you, dear." Isabelle nodded. "It's nothing. Let me know if they bother you again." As she walked off, Grace whispered to herself, "She has fire. She has heart. She's the one." Later that afternoon, Grace made her way to Isabelle's desk, now emptied of snide laughter and filled only with case files. "Excuse me, dear," she began gently. "May I speak with you?" Isabelle looked up, recognizing her. "Of course, ma'am. Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay. I was just wondering, would you consider marrying my grandson?" Isabelle laughed, taken aback. "That's kind of you, but I'm not looking for love right now." Grace nodded, not offended in the least. "You've been hurt." Isabelle sighed. "My ex was a lawyer here. He cheated on me. I caught him, right here, in this office. It was humiliating." "You deserve better," Grace said firmly. "My grandson, he's nothing like that. He's kind, he's quiet, raised with values. I raised him myself after the accident that took his parents." Isabelle gave her a soft smile. "That's sweet of you, but I really just want to focus on my work." Just then, a new intern walked into the room, dressed modestly, smile soft, eyes intelligent. "Grandma," he said, stepping in. Grace's face lit up. "Daniel, come meet someone." He reached out to Isabelle. "Hi, I'm Daniel. I just started today." Isabelle blinked. "The grandson?" She shook his hand, unsure why her heart skipped. "Isabelle, welcome to Harrington Co." As Daniel smiled at her, unassuming, honest, and warm, Grace leaned back in her chair with a grin. The game had just begun. The first week passed like the Harmattan wind, dry, fast, and full of unseen tension. Daniel Harrington, still just an intern, blended into office life with surprising ease. Most of the staff barely looked twice at him. Some barked orders, others ignored him entirely. But he didn't mind. He was here for truth, not titles. His grandmother, Grace Harrington, still mopped the floors and emptied bins under the name Miss Grace. But every mop stroke was deliberate. Every overheard whisper was another piece of the puzzle she was building, for Daniel, and for the future of the firm. One person, however, kept catching Daniel's attention like Lagos traffic catches everyone's patience. Isabelle Grey. Sharp-minded, poised, compassionate, and utterly unaware of the storm she had stirred in his heart. It started with a case file. "Daniel, come sit," Isabelle called across the office, waving him over. "You'll assist me on the Goldmark petroleum case." He blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you. You read, right?" she teased with a half-smile. "Yes, very well, actually," he replied, sliding into the chair beside her. Over the next several days, they buried themselves in legal jargon and evidence files. To Isabelle's surprise, Daniel's understanding of corporate litigation was uncanny. "You said you were just an intern, but you analyzed like a partner," she murmured one evening, eyeing him curiously. He smiled. "I read a lot." She paused. "Why law?" Daniel hesitated. "I've always wanted to help people, quietly. Law gives you tools to fight without fists." Isabelle nodded slowly. "That's rare. Most people here want prestige, not people." Across the office, Vanessa Cole noticed them talking and laughed bitterly to herself. So this Isabelle girl thought she could rise through closeness to an intern? She had no idea who really mattered here. Meanwhile, Grace Harrington leaned against her mop, watching her grandson smile as Isabelle scribbled notes and cracked jokes. A cleaner nearby muttered, "That girl and that new intern, they're always together." Grace smiled. "Because he sees her." The next day, Isabelle received a call from her mother. "Belle, your mates are bringing men home. Even Blessing, the loud one, is engaged now. When will I meet your own husband?" Isabelle sighed. "Soon, Mum. I'll bring someone, I promise." This year, oh, I'm not getting any younger." She ended the call and looked over at Daniel, who was hunched over a laptop, eyes glowing with focus. Could she really bring him home, even just to silence her mother? But he wasn't just a prop. He was something else. Steady, honest, and quietly brilliant. That evening, as they packed up, Daniel handed her a wrapped meat pie. "You skipped lunch," he said. She blinked. "You noticed?" He shrugged. "Of course." Isabelle took it, heart fluttering. Just then, Vanessa walked by, her voice dripping with poison. "Oh, how sweet. Our office charity project is feeding the interns now?" Daniel looked up, calm. "It's just food, Vanessa. But maybe you could try sharing too." Vanessa rolled her eyes and stormed off. Isabelle smiled, unable to stop the warmth in her chest. Something about Daniel made her feel safe. And for the first time in years, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, not all good men were myths. The halls of Harrington Coal carried tension like heat off Lagos asphalt. Behind smiling faces and clacking heels, jealousies simmered. No one simmered more than Vanessa Cole. To her, Isabelle Grey was a low-tier girl, from a Yaba background, who had no business standing out, especially not beside that new intern, Daniel. Vanessa didn't know who he really was. She didn't need to. All she saw was someone interrupting her silent plan to rise, charm, and conquer. That week, Isabelle and Daniel continued working late on the Goldmark case. Their synergy was becoming the talk of the office, not because people admired it, but because they feared what it meant. During a team briefing, Isabelle presented their case findings flawlessly. Daniel, at her side, contributed insights that stunned even senior associates. Afterward, whispers followed them down the hall. Who trained that intern? She's only climbing because of him. Maybe they're dating. Vanessa laughed loudly in the break room. Please, like anyone would choose a nobody like Isabelle, unless he's even lower. The remark landed just as Mark Stone, Isabelle's ex, walked in. He caught the tail end and added his own dagger. She doesn't exactly attract quality men, you know. Daniel overheard. He stepped in slowly, his voice low but sharp. That's enough. Mark smirked. Look who's talking. The office messenger wants to defend Madame Broken Heart. Daniel's eyes held his ground. Say what you like about me, but leave her out of your bitterness. Mark stepped forward. Or what? Or the next time you open your mouth, you'll be explaining it to HR. Mark laughed in disbelief. You don't even have a desk. You think you matter? At that moment, HR manager Miss Attawale appeared at the hallway corner, lips tight. Mr. Stone, my office, now. Daniel turned to Isabelle. She stood silently, heart pounding. It wasn't just what Daniel said. It was how he said it, like she was worth protecting. Later that evening, as the building emptied and rain began to mist over Ikoyi, Isabelle sat beside Daniel in the lounge. No one's ever done that for me, she whispered. He glanced at her. Then they've all been fools. She laughed, a sound soft and real. I told my mom I had a boyfriend, she said suddenly, then covered her mouth. Not like, I meant I told her I'd bring someone home soon. I just wanted peace. Daniel nodded. I'll come with you. Her eyes widened. You would? Why not? I'm quiet, presentable, and I bring meat pie. She chuckled, and a briefcase full of mystery. Daniel looked at her, and the air between them shifted, softer, slower. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Grace Harrington. She is gold, but gold must be tested in fire. Prepare yourself. He pocketed the phone and looked back at Isabelle. Let's see where this goes, he said quietly. Outside, the rain thickened. Inside, something was beginning, tentative but deep. And across the city, unseen eyes were watching, planning. Because not everyone wanted this connection to bloom. The elevator chimed softly as Isabelle and Daniel stepped onto the rooftop terrace of Harrington Coal, lit with fairy bulbs and Lagos' Sessa's shimmering skyline. It was the firm's quarterly mixer, an event filled with cocktails, fake laughter, and silent wars waged through fashion and gossip. Isabelle wore a simple emerald dress. No sequins, no drama, just grace. Daniel, dressed in a crisp navy suit he pulled from his intern closet, looked like he belonged, even if most still thought he was barely more than a messenger. As they mingled, some glanced curiously at them. Others scoffed quietly. Across the rooftop, Vanessa Cole sipped Zobo champagne with narrowed eyes. And beside her stood someone even more dangerous, Layla Blackwood. Layla had arrived in Lagos 2 days earlier, gliding into the city with her designer heels and perfume that smelled like power. She had been Daniel's ex. Beautiful, calculating, entitled. And she wanted him back. "What's she wearing?" Layla muttered as she watched Isabelle laugh with Daniel. "A gown from Belogan Market?" Vanessa smirked. "She's not even his type. He used to like class. Now he's settling for crumbs." "I'll make sure she's finished," Vanessa said. "You just smile and wait." Back inside the firm, whispers had reached fever pitch. "Did you hear?" someone murmured. Intern Daniel, has been working on a pitch with Isabelle behind management's back." "Could be a love trap," another joked. But the real trap had already been set. The next morning, as Isabelle arrived early to prepare a proposal for a new international client, her computer screen flashed red. "Access denied. Confidential documents flagged." Moments later, HR summoned her. "We have evidence suggesting you leaked sensitive files," said Miss Attewell, tone grave. "There are emails from your work account." Isabelle's mouth went dry. "What? That's not possible. I didn't." Vanessa stood nearby, arms folded. "The files went out last night, right after the rooftop party, to a competitor." Daniel, watching the chaos unfold from a corner, felt the blood drain from his face. He waited until the room cleared, then pulled Isabelle aside. "I believe you. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out." She met his eyes, grateful, but broken. "It's not just the job. My reputation, my mother, everything I've worked for." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "You're not alone." That evening, Grace Harrington called her grandson to her side in their Lecky home. She had removed her cleaning apron, her face now regal, every inch the matriarch of a dynasty. "This girl," she said, "has endured more disgrace than most. You cannot wait anymore. If you love her, protect her." Daniel stood silently. "It's time." The next day, he made a call. "Jonathan," he said to his trusted assistant, "tomorrow, you walk into that office as Daniel Harrington, CEO. Play the role, I'll watch, and we'll see exactly who shows their true face." Because the time for observation was over. Now came the reckoning. At exactly 9 a.m., the main doors of Harrington Cole legal chambers swung open. Jonathan Brooks, impeccably dressed in a tailored gray suit, strode in with quiet authority. His gait was measured, his silence deliberate, his briefcase symbolic. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that him? Is that Daniel Harrington? Oh my God, he's here, the real one." Vanessa Cole adjusted her skirt, checked her lipstick, and hurried to the entrance like a lioness sniffing royalty. "Mr. Harrington," she purred, flashing a perfectly practiced smile. "It's such an honor to finally meet you. I've been following your career for years." Jonathan raised a brow, nodded coolly, and kept walking. Behind a conference room divider, the real Daniel Harrington, dressed still as the humble intern, observed everything. Silent, focused. His plan was working. At her desk, Isabelle Grey sat quietly, eyes heavy with anxiety. Her inbox was flooded with unspoken accusations. Her co-workers had grown colder. Even the receptionist barely made eye contact. It was as if everyone had already judged her guilty. Meanwhile, Vanessa clung to Jonathan's side like glue. She guided him on a fake tour of the firm, showing off irrelevant departments and praising her own non-existent achievements. But Jonathan was just a decoy. He was a mirror. And as she bragged, He made mental notes. Quiet ones, dangerous ones. That afternoon, Grace Harrington re-entered the firm for the first time, not as a cleaner, but as herself. She wore a simple wrapper blouse combo and carried a handbag that had once graced a UN Women's Conference. Those who recognized her gasped. Those who didn't stared. She walked past them all, straight to Isabelle. "My dear," she said warmly, "I came to sit with you." Isabelle blinked. You're not Miss Grace the cleaner?" Grace chuckled. "No, love. That was just my disguise. I needed to see without filters." "But why?" Grace's face softened. "Because my grandson loves you. And before the world judges you, he needed to know who you are when no one's watching." Isabelle's breath caught. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the boardroom. HR had called an emergency meeting. Jonathan was present. Vanessa stood near him, smirking. "This concerns confidential data leaks," Miss Attawell announced. "Mr. Harrington has been briefed and will now share his stance." Jonathan cleared his throat and began. "Before any judgment is passed, I insist on a full forensic audit of access logs and surveillance. We won't make decisions based on whispers." Vanessa stepped forward confidently. "Sir, with all due respect, we have evidence. Emails from Isabelle's account." "And what if that evidence was planted?" A voice interrupted from the back. All heads turned. Daniel stepped forward, no longer in intern clothes. Gasps rippled across the room. Some rose to their feet in disbelief. Daniel's voice was steady. "My name is Daniel Harrington, the true CEO of this firm, and I have been among you, watching, learning, listening." Vanessa's mouth parted in shock. "Wait, you?" Daniel's eyes hardened. "Yes, and I've seen everything." The room fell into stunned silence. Then Grace stepped in behind him, placing a gentle hand on Isabelle's shoulder. "She stood tall when others tried to break her," Grace said. "And now, it's time the truth stood with her too." Outside, thunder rumbled across Lagos. Inside, a storm had just begun to break. Daniel Harrington, no longer the anonymous intern, stood at the head of the table like a storm about to break. His voice, calm but laced with fire, echoed against the glass walls of Harrington Cole. "I came here to see who this firm really was beneath the surface," he began. "What I saw was disappointing, but not surprising." He turned to Vanessa Cole, who stood frozen, her confidence leaking away like ink in water. "I saw a brilliant woman bullied because she didn't wear designer heels. I saw gossip dressed up as power. And now, I see a lie." Daniel reached into his coat and pulled out a file. "These are the access logs from the night in question," he said, passing them to HR manager Miss Attawell. "It shows that the documents in question were opened and sent from Vanessa's IP address, not Isabelle's." Murmurs rippled across the room. Vanessa's face turned pale. "That's impossible. I... "Save it," Daniel cut in, his tone now colder. "You tampered with evidence. You tried to destroy Isabelle's career. And for what? Spite?" He turned to Jonathan, who handed over a second file. "We also discovered the emails were created using a proxy tool that was installed on Vanessa's system the same week she returned from Port Harcourt." Miss Attawell closed the file, her voice sharp. "Miss Cole, pack your things. You're dismissed from this firm, effective immediately." Vanessa gasped. "You're making a mistake. You're ruining my life." "You ruined your own reputation," Grace Harrington said from behind her. "And you almost ruined someone else's." Security arrived. Vanessa's heels clacked against the tiled floor as she was escorted out. Her silence, for once, spoke volumes. But the storm wasn't over. Just as calm returned, the office door opened, and in walked Layla Blackwood, her stride confident, her diamond earrings flashing like accusations. She strolled up to the boardroom table. "I have something to say." Daniel's jaw tightened. Isabelle looked away. Layla smiled sweetly. "I was involved. Vanessa didn't act alone. I fed her information. I gave her access. I coached her on what to do." Gasps erupted again. Isabelle blinked in disbelief. "Why?" Daniel asked, barely able to hide his fury. "Because I loved you," Layla said simply. "And I couldn't stand watching you fall for someone so common." "You drugged my drink," Daniel said. "You trespassed into my home. And now you're confessing to corporate sabotage." Layla shrugged. "I just wanted you back." Daniel stepped aside. "Security?" But Grace raised a hand. "Let her speak." Layla's facade cracked for the first time. Her eyes glistened. "I used to think power meant control, that love could be forced. But she..." Layla turned to Isabelle. "She didn't need to lie, or beg, or scheme. And he chose her." She exhaled, voice shaking. "I'm sorry." Then she turned and walked out. No security, no screaming. Just quiet shame. The room held its breath. Daniel turned to Isabelle, heart pounding. "You believed in me when you thought I had nothing." She looked up, eyes rimmed with tears. "You stood by me when I had no one." They stared at each other. And in front of the entire firm, Daniel reached out and took her hand. "I wasn't pretending when I said I loved you," he said. "But I still owe you the truth, and a wedding worthy of the woman who saved my soul." A stunned silence followed. Then slow applause. First from Grace, then from Jonathan. Then the room erupted. Isabelle stood beside Daniel, no longer hidden, no longer doubted. She was no longer the girl from Yaba. She was Isabelle Grey Harrington, partner in truth, in law, and in love. The buzz in Harrington Coal hadn't died down. News of Daniel Harrington's reveal and Isabelle Grey's vindication spread like Harrington fire through legal circles in Lagos. Some were stunned, others ashamed. But most just couldn't believe that the intern had been the CEO all along, and that he had chosen a woman from Yaba over society's high-born darlings. Inside Daniel's office, things were quieter. He and Isabelle sat side by side, the door shut to the world. "I meant every word I said," Daniel whispered, lacing his fingers with hers. "But there's something you still don't know." Isabelle looked at him, her brows slightly furrowed. "More secrets?" He smiled softly. "Not a secret, a memory." And then he told her. "When I was 13, I was the weird rich boy in school. Quiet, always alone. One day, a group of older boys cornered me, called me names, slapped my books out of my hands, pushed me against a wall." Isabelle's eyes widened. "And then," Daniel continued, "this girl appeared out of nowhere. Short braids, white socks folded perfectly. You stood between me and them like a lion." Her lips parted. "That was you? You told them you'd become a lawyer one day and sue every last one of them for harassment. You even started dialing a number." Isabelle gasped softly. "My uncle was a policeman. I wasn't bluffing." Daniel chuckled. "They left. I never forgot your face. Years later, the moment I walked into this firm and saw you again, I knew." "You knew what?" she whispered. "That if I ever found you again, I'd never let you go. Tears welled in Isabelle's eyes, slow and silent. You remembered me all this time? I built my career chasing the courage I saw in a teenage girl with scraped sandals and a brave voice. She covered her face for a moment, overwhelmed. When she looked up again, her smile was shaking. You owe me suya for that, you know. Daniel laughed, a sound rich and full, and leaned in to kiss her forehead. I owe you everything. Later that evening, Grace Harrington hosted a private dinner in her Lekki home. The dining table was filled with palm wine, egusi soup, jollof rice, and joy. You too, she said, pointing her fork at them like a judge with final say, are the future of this family and this firm. But there's something else I want. Isabelle raised an eyebrow. What's that? Grace smiled mischievously. A grandchild. I'm not getting any younger. Isabelle almost choked on her water. Daniel burst out laughing. Grandma, he scolded gently. Grace waved her hand. You're married now. What are you waiting for? Abby, the wedding didn't include that clause. The room erupted in laughter. But later that night, as they got home, something shifted. Daniel held Isabelle in his arms on the balcony, the lights of Ikoyi glittering below. The air smelled of distant rain and fresh beginnings. Let's build something real, he said softly. No secrets, no masks. Just us. She nodded against his chest. As long as there's trust. There is. And under the starlit sky, with the city resting below them, they promised each other more than love. They promised truth. Always. The mansion was quiet that afternoon. Isabelle Harrington stood barefoot in the kitchen, slicing ripe mangoes and humming a tune her late father used to play on the radio. She was settling into the rhythm of her new life, one where she was no longer a struggling lawyer from Yaba, but the wife of one of the most powerful legal minds in Nigeria. And yet, something felt off. Her phone buzzed. Mom, don't forget, your auntie and I are still waiting to meet your husband. Oya, set date now. Isabelle smiled, typing back. Soon, Mom. You'll love him. Just then, the mansion's smart lock beeped. Daniel wasn't due back yet. She turned quickly, only to find a familiar face strutting into the living room like she owned it. Layla Blackwood. In a fitted white blouse and flared high-waisted pants, her look was classic Lagos elite. Cold, confident, calculated. Isabelle froze. What are you doing here? Layla smiled. The staff still remember me. I told them I was here to see my fiancé. You mean my husband? Layla chuckled, setting her handbag down on the marble counter. Yes, well, that's a detail I plan to change. Isabelle stepped forward, eyes hard. You're trespassing. Relax, Layla said sweetly. I just came to drop off a gift. She pulled out a sleek bottle of imported red wine and placed it on the center table. Something Daniel used to love. Isabelle's eyes narrowed. What did you do to it? Oh, come on, Layla said with a soft laugh. Don't be dramatic. But if you must know, I added a little reminder. Something mild. Just enough to make him remember me. Let's call it memory juice. Isabelle's face went pale. You're insane. Before Layla could reply, a door creaked. Grace Harrington appeared from the guest hallway, holding a folded shawl. She had heard everything. I knew you were desperate, Grace said calmly. But poisoning my grandson? You've hit rock bottom and started to dig. Layla stiffened. This isn't your business. Grace raised a brow. Everything Daniel loves is my business. She picked up the wine bottle, uncapped it, sniffed, and without hesitation, poured its contents into the sink. "Guards," she called. 2 uniformed men appeared almost instantly. "Escort her out. She is never to enter this compound again." Layla's mask slipped just slightly, a tremble beneath her glare. "You'll regret this," she hissed, her heels echoing across the marble as she was dragged out. Once the door slammed shut, Isabelle collapsed onto the sofa, breathing hard. Grace walked over, gently placing the shawl on her shoulders. "She won't win, my dear. Evil never does." Isabelle nodded, though her hands still trembled. When Daniel returned later that evening, Isabelle told him everything. He listened, jaw tight, fists clenched. "She came into our home?" "She almost made me doubt again," Isabelle whispered. But Grace was there. Daniel sat beside her, took her hands. "We'll change the locks, change everything. But we won't change this, us." She nodded. "Promise me no more ghosts." He kissed her forehead. From now on, only light. But as the night deepened and their hearts began to settle, a different kind of storm began to brew. This time, from within. The past had been dealt with. Now, something new stirred on the horizon. Something small, something unseen, something growing. The next 2 weeks passed in a quiet rhythm of rebuilding. Daniel doubled down at Harrington Coal, restoring order and ensuring new safeguards were in place. Vanessa and Layla were gone, and staff morale was slowly returning, especially now that Isabelle's name had been publicly cleared. But inside the Harrington mansion, something stirred beneath the surface. Isabelle had started feeling off. She blamed it on stress at first. Late nights reviewing case files, rebuilding client trust, managing firm gossip, and dealing with the constant, "When are you people giving us twins?" pressure from Grace. But one morning, as she stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth, the bitter smell of mint triggered a wave of nausea so intense, she barely made it to the sink. Daniel rushed in moments later, alarmed. "Belle, what's wrong?" She sat on the bathroom floor, pale and confused. "I don't know. My stomach just turned like Nipa flipped my insides." He knelt beside her, holding her hand. "That's the 3rd time this week." She blinked slowly, connecting dots. "And I've been craving Puff Puff at 2 a.m. Grace's voice floated from the hallway. "I told you people owe." Daniel's head snapped toward the door. "Grandma, were you listening?" Grace waltzed in triumphantly. "Listen, my dear, I've known." Isabelle laughed, despite herself. "Known what?" Grace folded her arms, grinning like a prophetess. "You, my dear, are pregnant?" Daniel's jaw dropped. "What?" "I said it since the last time you fainted after dinner. My spirit knowed a lie." Isabelle stared at them both, the room spinning in 1,000 thoughts. Grace pulled out her phone. "We are going to the hospital. Today." Later that afternoon, in a private clinic in Victoria Island, a young female doctor smiled gently after glancing at the scan. "Congratulations, Mrs. Harrington. You're 6 weeks along." Isabelle's eyes filled with tears. Daniel squeezed her hand, speechless. A heartbeat pulsed across the screen, tiny but strong. That night, as the Lagos skyline blinked with city lights, Daniel and Isabelle stood on their balcony. She leaned into him, her hand resting on her stomach. "Can you believe this?" she whispered. He kissed her temple. You saved me from myself, Isabelle. And now, you're giving me a family. She looked up at him. Do you think I'll be a good mother? He didn't hesitate. You'll be extraordinary. Behind them, Grace watched from the doorway with tears in her eyes. Her legacy had not just survived scandal and betrayal. It had grown roots. As the couple stood under the stars, a soft breeze swept through the trees outside. It carried no drama, no noise, no pain. Just peace and promise. The day of the baby shower arrived with unexpected sunshine after a week of Lagos rain. The Harrington mansion in Lekki Phase 1 was transformed. The garden sparkled with white and gold decorations, soft music from a live band filled the air, and the scent of grilled suya, jollof rice, and fresh zobo mingled in celebration. Isabelle Harrington, glowing in a flowing ivory gown, stood under the canopy surrounded by love. Her belly had grown, her smile even more. Laughter filled the space. Lawyers, family, even some reformed staff from Harrington Cole mingled like old friends. She looked across the lawn and found Daniel in a cream caftan, holding court with colleagues and his ever-faithful assistant Jonathan, who now served as Chief Operations Officer. Their eyes met. He winked. Beside her, Grace Harrington fanned herself proudly. You see what I told you? You thought I was disturbing you, but God knew, she said with a grin. Isabelle laughed. You didn't disturb me. You bulldozed destiny. Grace gave her a side hug. That's what grandmothers are for. Suddenly, a woman in a teal wrapper walked up to them with quiet reverence. Mrs. Harrington? Isabelle turned. Yes? The woman handed her a wrapped gift. I came all the way from Enugu. I used to work for Layla's family. I heard what happened. I just wanted to say thank you for standing strong. You made a lot of us believe again. Isabelle accepted the gift with tears brimming. Thank you for coming. When the sun dipped behind the palms, Daniel stepped onto the small makeshift stage. He cleared his throat, holding a microphone. The crowd hushed. Everyone, thank you for being here. Today isn't just about a baby. It's about healing, about truth, about starting again. He turned to Isabelle, his voice softer. You walked into my life as a lawyer with scars. You leave a legacy, stronger than any case I'll ever win. You reminded me that love isn't about status. It's about the courage to choose someone again and again. The crowd clapped. Isabelle's eyes blurred with emotion. But there's one more thing, Daniel continued. When I started as an intern in my own firm, I didn't expect to find a wife, or a partner, or a future mother of our child. He knelt and pulled out a small box. I never gave you a real ring. That first one was from a registry office and a rush of love. This one. He opened the box to reveal a custom gold band shaped like scales of justice, is a symbol of what we've survived, of what we're building. Isabelle couldn't speak. She just nodded as he slid the ring onto her finger. The crowd rose in applause. Grace sobbed. Jonathan fist-pumped. Later that night, as the last guests filtered out and the lantern swayed gently in the breeze, Daniel and Isabelle stood alone under the mango tree in their yard. She kicked, Isabelle whispered, placing his hand on her belly. Daniel grinned. That's our little lawyer, already protesting. They laughed, forehead to forehead. Then, softly, Isabelle said, Promise me something. Anything. When she grows up, she'll know everything, the whole story. Not just the glam, but the truth. Daniel nodded. She'll know that love is strongest when tested, that integrity is power, and that legacy isn't money. It's people. He kissed her. As they held each other under the stars, the camera of life panned out, capturing not just two people, but the seed of a family reborn from ashes, deception, and grace. And in that stillness, it was clear. The hidden boss had been love all along. Harrington